All right, we need to talk about something big. A brand new research paper just dropped, and it's from some of the heaviest hitters you can imagine. We're talking Google Quantum AI and the Ethereum Foundation. And look, this isn't just some dry academic paper. It's basically a massive wake-up call for the entire world of crypto.
So the whole paper really zeroes in on this one pretty terrifying question. We've all heard about the quantum threat, right? But it always felt like this distant, sci-fi problem, something for our grandkids to worry about. Well, this new research suggests that the future is coming a lot faster than we thought.
And this is the number that's really shaking things up. We're talking about qubits, the fundamental building blocks of a quantum computer. For years, the consensus was that you need millions of these things to pose a real threat to crypto. This paper, it slashes that estimate to less than 500,000. That doesn't just move the goalposts, it puts them right in our backyard. And that's why this is so important. This isn't just some random person on the internet making wild claims. This is coming from a super credible team of researchers who are literally on the front lines of both quantum computing and blockchain. What they've put together is a really detailed, practical look at the very real dangers we're starting to face.
Okay, so for our first section, let's really dig into why this paper is such a game changer. It all comes down to a huge, and I mean huge, reduction in what we thought it would take to actually pull off a quantum attack.
I mean, just look at the difference here. We're talking about a nearly 20-fold drop in the number of physical qubits needed compared to what most public estimates were saying before. What this really means is that the timeline for building what they call a cryptographically relevant quantum computer just got way, way shorter. The threat isn't on the horizon anymore. It's getting closer. And this part is just brilliant. You see, the researchers obviously didn't want to publish a step-by-step guide for bad guys to use. So instead, they used something called a zero-knowledge proof. It's a super clever cryptographic trick that lets them prove they know how to break the encryption without actually revealing how they do it. It's like proving you know a secret password without ever saying the password out loud. It's a way to sound the alarm without handing over the weapon.
So, okay, we know the threat is closer, but how would an attack actually work? What would it look like? Well, the paper doesn't just raise the alarm and walk away. It actually lays out a specific playbook for how a quantum attacker could strike. And they make this really important distinction between two kinds of attacks. First, you have at-rest attacks. Think of these as targeting funds that are just sitting around in old wallets, where the public key is already exposed. But the really urgent danger they point to is the on-spend attack, which goes after your money while it's in the middle of a transaction.
And here's how that on-spend attack would play out. Imagine you send some Bitcoin. Your transaction first goes into this public waiting area called the mempool. An attacker sees it there. At that moment, your public key is visible. They could feed that key to a quantum computer and, get this, figure out your private key in as little as 9 minutes. That's faster than the time it takes for a new Bitcoin block to be mined. They could then just create a new transaction, send your funds to their own wallet, pay a higher fee so theirs gets picked first, and poof, your money is gone before your original transaction ever had a chance. The paper also points out that not all quantum computers are the same. You've got fast clock machines like the ones that use superconducting qubits, which would be speedy enough for those lightning-fast on-spend attacks. Then you have slow clock machines, which would be too slow for that, limiting them to the easier targets, those at-rest funds that have been sitting exposed for a while. It's a really key detail for understanding which dangers will pop up first.
But this is about so much more than just one person's Bitcoin getting stolen. The paper really widens the lens to show that the entire crypto world, especially complex platforms like Ethereum, is facing some really serious systemic dangers.
Right, so the very things that make Ethereum so powerful and flexible, all its smart contracts, its staking features, its layer 2s, well, those things also create way more opportunities for an attacker. All that complexity creates a much, much bigger attack surface for a quantum computer to go after. And the paper lays it out pretty clearly. An attacker could target the admin keys of smart contracts, getting control of billions in assets. They could find a cryptographic weakness in a layer 2 solution, putting 15 million ETH at risk. Or they could go after the validator keys that literally hold the network together, threatening the 37 million ETH that's staked right now. We're not just talking about theft anymore. This is a threat to the integrity of the entire system.
So this brings us to one of the wildest and, honestly, most difficult problems that the paper brings up. What on earth do we do about all the crypto that's already vulnerable and can't be saved?
The sheer scale of this is just mind-boggling. We're talking about roughly 2.3 million Bitcoin. These are coins from the very early days of Bitcoin, maybe even Satoshi's own stash, just sitting in wallets that are now, for all intents and purposes, ticking time bombs.
And here's the kicker. They can't be moved. The private keys for these wallets are almost certainly lost to time. The owners can't just wake up and transfer the funds to a new, quantum-safe address. This means there's a giant, unmovable pile of cash worth hundreds of billions of dollars just sitting there, waiting for the day a quantum computer is powerful enough to come and claim it.
So what's the plan? The paper floats this really fascinating idea they call digital salvage. The concept is to create a legal framework that treats these vulnerable, dormant assets like a sunken treasure ship. Instead of a chaotic free-for-all where everyone with a quantum computer races to steal the funds, you'd have a regulated, orderly process for their recovery. Pretty wild, right?
Now, all of this sounds pretty scary, I know. But the paper doesn't just leave us with the problem. It does point towards a solution. The issue is, getting there is going to be an absolutely massive undertaking for the entire industry.
So the answer is to upgrade everything to what's called Post-Quantum Cryptography, or PQC. But it is not an easy switch. For one, these new security measures create much larger digital signatures, which means more data on the blockchain and, you guessed it, higher fees for everyone. They're also pretty new, which means there's always a chance of undiscovered bugs. And just try to imagine the logistics of getting an entire network like Bitcoin to upgrade. The paper suggests it could take years.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There is real hope here. The paper points out that some projects, like the quantum-resistant ledger, were actually built from day one to be quantum safe. Big players like Algorand and Solana are already running experiments with PQC, and, crucially, the Ethereum Foundation is one of the groups leading the charge on the research, so work is definitely being done.
And in the end, the authors really don't pull any punches. Their final conclusion is a direct, urgent call to action. They're basically shouting from the rooftops, telling everyone in crypto that the time to start moving to safer ground is right now, while we still have the chance.
Which really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? This paper makes it crystal clear that the quantum clock is ticking, and it's ticking a lot faster than any of us thought. A race has officially started, a race between the people building these powerful new computers and the people trying to secure our digital world against them. And right now, it's anyone's guess who's going to win.